Hello, hello. In this video, we're going to talk about eMAR. eMAR is our electronic MAR and TAR. All right, so I'm going to walk you through some steps on how we're going to sign off on our orders once you go live with eMAR. If you have eMAR, then you should have laptops on all of your medication and your treatment carts. Those laptops will access Matrix just like your desktop computers do at your nurse's station. So anything you could do at the nurse's station, you can now do from your cart. Vitals, observations, events, progress notes, any of that good stuff, you can now do it while you are actually working on the cart. Up here at the top, when we're looking at all of our tabs that we can choose from, you'll notice that to the right of our resident tab, you have your eMAR tab. So if I click on eMAR, it gives me three different options. I have select work list, select resident, order administration. Any of these three will take you directly to eMAR. Once I select one, it brings me to my work lists or my to-do list. And if you notice right here in the middle, I have my East unit, I have my memory care unit, I have my North unit, and I have my South unit. Okay, so when you log in, and my West unit down here at the bottom, when you log into eMAR at your building, you will see your entire building as soon as you log in. Now, you are not going to be responsible for your entire building. So it would make a lot more sense if you could narrow down this to-do list so you can just focus on your unit, or just your hall. To do that, we have these filters over here on the left-hand side. The filters will be labeled and have abbreviations for the units at your building. So these will be specific to your building and your layout. I'm working the East unit today, so to get rid of everything else except my East unit, I'm going to click on E for East. When I do that, notice how everything else goes away. Now I can just focus on my hall. These buttons will work the exact same way no matter which one you choose. Below that, we have a status bar. The status is going to tell you how many things are late, how many things are due, and how many tasks you have. Late is something that's outside of its window. And the windows can vary depending on the order. So if we have a medication with a very specific time, let's say a 9 a.m. medication, that order is going to turn green or due at 8 a.m. and stay green until 10, so you have an hour before and an hour after. At 10:01, that order will turn red. That order is now late. You can still sign off on that order. The computer is just going to ask you, why is it late? All right, so you have to do a follow-up question. For your shift orders, let's say a side effect, and my shift is, let's say, 7 to 3, that side effect is going to stay green from 7 a.m. till 3 p.m. So essentially, I have my entire shift to sign off on any shift-based orders. Right below late, it shows me things that are due. I have 88 orders that are due right now. And below that, I have task, which it says 0. A task is going to be a follow-up to a PRN. So if I give a PRN to one of my residents and I confirm it and I say that it was given, the computer is going to automatically fire off a question for me to answer asking, was it effective, yes or no? We are going to wait our specified time, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever it may be, and then answer the follow-up question. Task can also mean that you have not answered all of the questions that an order may have. All right, so there are orders out there that require more than just your signature. Some orders, such as a sliding scale, are going to want to know the results of the AccuCheck, the units, the site, and was the MD notified, yes or no. If you don't answer those questions and you try to save that order, it's going to highlight the order in yellow and let you know which one of those questions you did not answer. So you need to make sure you follow up on all of your tasks. Below that, we have select work list. This button right here is always our back button. Okay, don't use this one up here in the top because you can erase what you just did. We don't want that to happen. So select work list will always go back. Depending on the screen you're on, this will change its verbiage, and at one point we'll say select resident. It works the same way. That always takes you back one screen. And below that, we have status report. If I were to click on that, it would bring me up a PDF, and it would show me a report of everything that is currently due for my unit. Instead of running a report and sifting through all that information, I can just look at my to-do list right here, and it will tell me based off of the colors that I see if something is due or not. And those color codes are going to be based off of this status bar on the left-hand side. Red is late, green is due, yellow is task. So if I look over here to my work lists, I can tell what is due based off of the border around each one of those work lists. Now notice all 5 of these have a green border. That means that there's at least one order in all 5 of these that have something I need to sign off on, I need to do. These work lists are just a combination of flow sheets that we have grouped together. So this first one that says all unit non-active flow sheets, you're going to see one just like that at your building. That work list is made up of your general flow sheet and your standing order flow sheet. Now flow sheets, if you remember back to physician orders, those are where we can assign orders to go. So if I were to put in a Coumadin order, I would pick an anticoagulant flow sheet. If I were to pick an antidepressant side effect, I would put that on a documentation flow sheet. If I were putting in an aspirin, I would put that on a medication flow sheet. So that's what these are, just a combination of flow sheets. So with this one being a general flow sheet and a standing order flow sheet, this work list right here is our safety net. We don't use a standing order flow sheet ever. So if somebody puts an order on there that needs a signature, it's going to light up in this work list letting us know that that order is on a flow sheet it's not supposed to be on. And in regards to a general flow sheet, any order that's on a general flow sheet should be an FYI. Okay, so we should never put an order that needs a signature or needs signed off on a general flow sheet. And again, we never use the standing order flow sheets. So the fact that this is green right now lets me know that somebody in this training database has put an order or multiple orders on the wrong flow sheets. Below that, we have the documentation. This is your documentation flow sheet. So all of your side effects, your document and MLs, all fluids with MedPass, those orders are going to show up in the documentation work list. Below that, we have treatments. That is your treatment flow sheet and your lab flow sheet. Now, our treatment flow sheet has more than just our topical treatments. It also has our positioning and devices. So anti-tippers on a wheelchair, DICEM on a wheelchair, quarter side rails, things like that will also be listed in your treatment work list. Your labs, for everybody in the company, for the most part, I think everybody's labs are set for 4 a.m. to 11 a.m. Now, when you sign off on a lab in eMAR, all you're saying is that they came in and they drew that lab. So it's not asking you for the results of the lab, just the fact that whatever company came in and they drew. The diabetic work list is just your diabetic flow sheet, so all of your AccuChecks and your insulins will be listed here. And then the last one is medications. This work list has everything else. Our routine meds, our PRN meds, our respiratory, IV, enteral, dietary, all of those are located within the medication work list. So the fact that all 5 of them have a green border, I know that I have a lot of work to do. And I can tell I have a lot of work to do because over here it tells me I have 88 orders that I need to sign off on. I'm going to start with documentation. So if I click on my documentation work list, it's going to show me a list of all of my residents. Now at your building, all these residents will have pictures, like Mr. T down here for John Heiner. And each resident that has something due, the resident's background will turn green, just like these 3, and they will move to the front of the list. If a resident doesn't have any orders that are due, they will remain this gray color, and they will fall in line based off of their room numbers. So I can see right here that Santa Claus has something that is due. So I'm going to click on Santa Claus. When I do that, it takes me to this page where I can now start signing off on these orders. The first order that I see is this anticoagulation medication use. So if I look on this one, there's a green stripe on the left-hand side of my order, and at the bottom of my order, it says due. All right, that's my indication telling me that this order is currently due, that I need to sign off on it. So if you look, what we're going to do is we're going to move down this list and follow the green stripe. So next is an anticonvulsant. Next I have document mLs, all fluids with meds. Next I have offer an additional 120 mLs of fluids every shift. Below that, hypnotic sedative tranquilizer side effect. Notice the green stripe is still going. Then I have a monitor effectiveness of pain medication. And lastly, I have vital signs, Q shift. All right, so every order that's in here is currently due for my shift. To sign off on an order, there's 2 different ways we have to do it. And it depends on the type of order. Some orders require just your signature. Other require more than just your signature. So in this case, anticoagulant medication use, all I'm going to do is come over here to the right-hand side, and I have two options, PrEP or not administered. PrEP would mean that I am doing it or that I am monitoring for it. Not administered would mean that it was not administered, such as if this were a medication, if somebody refused something, I would say not administered and then answer some questions talking about it being refused by the resident. So for this one, I'm just going to click PrEP, saying that I'm doing it. I'm going to move on down, anticonvulsant medication, PrEP. Now something to reiterate here is the fact that these side effect orders are not saying whether or not a side effect occurred. If in fact a side effect occurs for a resident due to their medications, you're going to contact the doctor, you're going to fill out a progress note, you're going to do all of your follow-up, which will take care of that side effect actually happening. These orders are just saying that you're going to monitor for the side effects. The next one in line says document mLs all fluids with meds. Now this one is a little bit different. Notice that there's a task here and not administered. PrEP does not exist at this point for this order. So if it was my resident did take their meds and I did give them fluids, then my only choice here would be to pick task. When I click on task, it brings me to this screen where it's asking me how many mLs did the resident take. Now, with this order, I typed in 120. I could add a comment if I wanted to, but once I typed in the 120, I'm going to come up here to my OK button and click OK. Notice that after I did that, it puts a check mark next to the task, and now I have a PrEP box. So here's the rule that we have to go with. Every order, for it to save and to say that you did it, has to have the PrEP box checked or not administered. On these orders, we have to do task and PrEP. Okay, these above orders, all we had to do was PrEP. I keep moving down. It's asking me about the additional 120 mLs of fluids. So throughout my shift, I offered the additional 120. Again, it's asking me for my mLs. I answer that question. I click OK. And then I check PrEP. Now this document mLs all fluids with meds, just keep in mind, this is talking about your entire shift. So if you have 2 med passes or 3 med passes on your shift, this is talking about all of them in total, your mLs. So if it was 120 with each med pass and I had 2 med passes, then my number would have been 240 on my document mLs all fluids taken with meds. The next one in line is another side effect, a hypnotic, so I'm just going to check PrEP. The next one is asking, monitor effectiveness of pain medication, Q shift. Yes or no? If no, complete pain assessment, notify MD and or hospice. Okay, so this order right here, again, has the task or not administered, the monitor effectiveness of pain, and the document mLs all fluids with meds. I would suggest holding off on answering those 2 questions out of this work list until towards the end of your shift. It makes the most sense. You don't want to say that the pain meds were effective at the very beginning of your shift for this resident, and then an hour or 2 later they have breakthrough pain, and now your answer doesn't make any sense. Okay, so those 2 I would strongly urge you to wait until towards the end of your shift to answer. On this one, I'm going to click the task, and all it's asking me was, were the pain meds effective, yes or no? I will put in yes, click OK. And again, after I answer the task, I have to check PrEP. Now, I'm going to leave this last one here just to show you something. To save, now that I have everything prepped, including the tasks, I'm going to come up to the top and I have 2 options, confirm and stay or confirm and next. Both of these will take me to a page where I can save my work. Confirm and stay would keep me on Santa Claus's profile in this work list. Confirm and next would take me back out to the list of residents where I could pick the next one. In most cases, you're going to choose confirm and next. For this example, I'm going to choose confirm and stay. When I do that, it's going to give me a checklist or pretty much a summary of everything that I said that I'm signing off. All right, so it's a verification page, and if everything is good, I click Save. Now I did that so that we could see what's going on once we sign off certain orders. And again, following this green stripe that's on the left-hand side. So right now, I know that I have an order due for Santa Claus, and it's my vital signs that is scheduled every shift. So I'm following my green stripe down the left-hand side, and if you notice, right after vital signs, it stops. When your green stripe stops, you stop. What this system is going to do is it is going to take every order that is due and push it to the top of your list. So you never have to dig through all the orders for a resident. You don't have to flip pages in your eMAR anymore looking for what's due and what's not. It is automatically going to prioritize your orders based on if they are due or not. So once this green stripe stops, I stop. So now I know that I only have this order to sign off on. This one has a task and it has a not administered. This task is going to work a little bit differently. Same concept. I'm going to click on it. And what this one wants is a temperature, a pulse, respirations, blood pressure, and O2 saturation. So it's a full set of vitals every shift for this resident. Notice that this is different from the mLs or the monitor effectiveness of pain because there is no box for me to type in that information. What is going to happen at your building, if we are dealing with any of these 5 vital signs right here that you see, temperature, pulse, respiration, blood pressure, O2 sat, they're set up differently because if you answer them in eMAR, it will automatically put these vitals into your vital section in Matrix, so you no longer have to do the double documentation. Pretty cool, right? I know. So to answer those questions, we look over here to the right-hand side. For each one of these, we have 2 options. We have add new or associate. Okay, these work just like they do when you're adding vitals to hot charting. If I had not put in these vitals yet for this resident, I would want to add new. If I had already put in all 5 of these vitals for the resident via the vitals section in Matrix, then I could click associate, and by doing that, it would give me the option to pick one of my vital signs over here. So for this instance, temperature 99, I'm going to put a check mark in it. I'm going to say OK. Notice that it then filled out my 99 degrees right here for that vital sign. For the rest of these, I'm going to add them. So if you have multiple vitals, you're going to have this button up here at the top that says all vitals. That one's pretty clutch. If not, if it's just a single vital sign, then you're going to click on add new and add it that way. Since I have 4 vitals to add, it's going to be much quicker if I just click on all vitals. When I do that, it brings up my screen where it's wanting to know my pulse, my respirations, my blood pressure, and my O2 saturation. Once I've filled all those out, I can click OK. Now they have all been put in. I'll say OK. My task has a check mark, so what do I need to do next? Right, I need to click prep to say that it's done, or I'm doing it. Come up here, and at this point, I'm going to click confirm and next so we can look at the next resident in line. Confirm and next, here's all my information. If I want to save it, I'm going to click save. And now notice Santa Claus is no longer green, and he moves down the list. So next is Janetta Doe and Anita Doctor. Very clever, whoever did that one. I'm going to focus on Santa Claus today, though, and not these residents, just because I know I set up these orders in Santa Claus, and I know they're correct. So I'm going to come over here to the left-hand side, and again, my back button right here is Select Work List. So I'm going to click on Select Work List. It shows me my entire building. I need to narrow this down to just my East unit. So I'm going to come over here to the left and click on E for East. And right now, I'm going to look at medications. So with the medications, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to look at Santa Claus. So again, we are going to look at the green stripe to tell us what is due. So my calcium, 600, vitamin D, 400. I have a Duoneb. I have a potassium chloride. I have a sertraline. I have my observe orders for my nebulizer. And then you notice it stops. My green line stops, so I stop. I just need to focus on these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into my med cart and I'm going to find the calcium 600, vitamin D 400, and I'm going to pop it from the cart into the cup. Prep in the medication world means that I did exactly that. I popped it from the cart into the cup. I prepped the medication. I would come down and I would look. Next is the ipotropium. Now I need to give this, and I know it's going to take some time, so I'm going to come back and answer these questions here in just a minute. The next thing I see is a potassium chloride, so I pop it from the cart into the cup. I prep that medication. My sertraline, I did the exact same thing, so I prepped it. And then I come down here and I look, and the only thing I have left to do are my observe orders for my nebulizer. So I have 3 medications in my cup. And now I'm going to leave my med cart, walk down to the resident's room, and administer these medications, as well as the DuoNeb. This part is extremely important. Anytime that you step away from your med cart, or any place where you are logged into Matrix, you either need to log off, or in the case of eMAR, you have a button that says walk away right here. So anytime I step away from that cart, I'm going to walk away. Essentially, that is the same thing as you closing your MAR. All right, and it's very important that we do that. If you leave your computer, if you stay logged in and you walk away and just leave it open for anybody to walk up to and access, then we're violating HIPAA, and we don't want to do that. So what it's going to do by clicking walk away is it's going to keep my username. All I have to do is key in my password. So I walk down the hall, I administer the medications to the resident, I come back, I put in my password, I click resume, and it brings me right back to the page where I left off from. Now, another important piece of information. Do not confirm and save saying that a resident took medications until you actually go down there and offer them, and they either take them or they refuse them. I say this to try to help you. If I went through and let's say I had 10 medications on this page and I prepped them all, I had them all in the cup, I went down there, and before I left, I went ahead and confirmed them, saved them, resident took them, yep, and then I walked down there and they refuse all 10 of them, I have to now come back in here and touch every medication individually, fix them, amend them, and say that they refused them, which is going to take quite a bit of time. Instead, leave them prepped, just like this. We walk away. Now if they refused them, we come back and we log in, and all we have to do would be to uncheck prep and check not administered. That is much easier than having to fix everyone individually, trust me. So if I were to do that, and I'm going to say confirm and stay, because I want to stay on this resident. If I say something's not administered, it wants to know the reason. Discontinued, due to condition, drug item unavailable, on hold, refused, resident unavailable, or other. So let's just say that the resident refused these medications. If I answer it refused on the first one, it then gives me the option to say apply to all and answer all the ones below it the exact same way. That way I don't have to answer all the questions. And if that were the case and they did refuse them, I would then click save and I would be done with this. I'm going to click cancel because my resident took their medications. So I would leave them as prepped. All right, with my DuoNeb, I'm going to look at my task and it wants to know the minutes. We're going to say 15 minutes. I'll say okay. Then I can prep it. I'll come down here to the observe orders. So there's my after. Here's my before. So I'm going to look at my task. Pulse, respirations, and breath sounds. So again, quick route to do this. I'm going to click on all vitals. My pulse, my respirations, and my breath sounds. Say we're clear. Now that I've done the task, I'm going to check the prep. I'm then going to look at the during, which should just be pulse and respirations. If they were the exact same, all I have to do is check the box. If they were different, I would then click add new and put in a different value for the pulse and the respirations. Okay, prep, There's my after, same deal. Choose prep. Now everything that is due has their prep box checked. At this point, I'm going to say confirm and next and save. So now Santa Claus is down here. He's gray. He moved to the bottom of the list because he no longer has anything due at this time. If I were to give a PRN for Santa, I would click on my resident. Notice that the first thing that's going to pop up after everything that's due is gone. The first thing in your list are going to be your PRNs. Makes it much easier to find them. So on a PRN, all I have over here is the task. So if I click on the task, it's going to want to know, why am I giving this medication? All right, so this is an aspirin 81, but let's just say it's a PRN Tylenol. And I was giving it for pain. I would choose pain. Then my comment, let's say, left knee, moderate pain. I would say okay. I answered my task. Now I'm going to do my prep. Confirm and next. And save. So notice what happened. After I gave that PRN, it tells me that there is a task for Santa Claus. So if I click on Santa, my task is wanting to know, what is the result of my PRN medication? So let's fast forward 60 minutes. And I come back here and I'm going to answer this. So I click on task. PRN administered result. I'm going to say it was effective. Okay. That's checked. Confirm. Save. So really all we have done here, we either check the prep box first or we check the task box and then prep. We confirmed. We click save. That is how you're going to sign off on these orders. I'm going to go back to my select work list. Now, if we look at East, notice how this the list is now red. It has a red border around it. So that tells me that something's late. If I look at my status bar, there's one order that's currently late. So I'm going to go back to my medications. And I can see that this lady right here has something that's late. And she also has things that are due. So if I click on that list, it was a calcium 600, vitamin D 400. It's now late. It was due at 3 p.m. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click prep, saying that I gave it. If she had more things that were due, I could come down this list and do those as well, which it looks like they put in quite a few orders for this lady. But I'm just going to focus on this late one right now. So prep, I go to confirm, and it wants to know why it's late. Now this was due at 3 p.m. and I gave it at 3:30. Maybe I just forgot to sign off on it. And it's now 5 o'clock, or actually 4 o'clock in Minnesota time, which is why it's showing up late. So I would just say that I charted this late, and my comment for that specific scenario, I would put in the time that I gave the medication. So I'm going to say 3:30 p.m. for my comment. Save it. And now, if you notice, she's right here. She's no longer red. Now she's back to green because I answered the one question that was late. Going back to my work list, using my filter to just focus on East. There are my treatments, again, my documentation, my diabetic, and my medications. So, in short, anything that's green needs to be signed off on. Your documentation and your treatment work lists, every order that is in those should be shift-based. My side effects, my document MLs, all my treatments, labs are the only thing that's an exception. But everything in there should stay green my entire shift. So I know going into this, I have from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. or 3 to 11 or whatever your shift times you may have. I have all shift to answer these questions right here. If my diabetic or my medication list is green, I'm working with a much smaller window. Okay, so a lot of these times, in most cases, these are specifically timed orders. So I would focus on my diabetic and my medication, and throughout my shift, I would get into documentation and treatments. By doing that, you're going to set yourself up to succeed. But do not leave documentation and treatments to answer all at the very end of your shift, because there are going to be a lot of orders in these two work lists right here. It's going to help you out much more if you answer those throughout your shift. So if anything's green, we do it. If anything is red, we focus on that immediately and we take care of what's red so we can answer it before it falls off as missed. At the end of your shift, you are going to run a compliance report. Now that compliance report is for eMAR, and the directions on how to run it are going to be found on little cheat sheets that have been left at your facility. To show you where it is located, I would go to my facility tab. Under facility, I would travel to reports. And in here, I could find my administration compliance report right under the eMAR category. For directions on how to run that report, please watch the report videos that are also available for you on this website. So at the end of your shift, you are going to run, like I said, the compliance report, and that report is going to show you if anything was missed on your shift. Now, remember, if we're dealing with a medication with a very specific time, you've got an hour before and an hour after that medication or order is going to stay green or due for you. So going back to our example at the beginning of this video, if it's a 9 a.m. medication, it's going to turn green at 8, stay green until 10. At 10:01, it now becomes red and it's late. The late window is 2 hours as well. So from 10 to noon, it's going to be late. In this example, at 12:01, it will fall off as missed. So the report that you're going to run at the end of your shift is going to show you if anything was missed on your shift. If something was missed, then we need to go back into eMAR and we need to amend that order before you leave for the day. That way we have no holes in our eMAR. To amend something, let's say that it was on our East unit, it was for Santa Claus, and it was in his medication list. I would come to eMAR, I would find my East medications, I would select Santa Claus, and we're scrolling down, and let's just say that it was this calcium 600 with vitamin D 400. So I'm looking at my report, it tells me that I missed this calcium order. I know for a fact that I gave it, somehow I just did not sign it off. So what I'm going to do is look over here to the right hand side of the order, and all of them have these two options. The first one is 14-day. This will show us a 14-day transcript of the electronic signatures for this medication, or the eMAR. It's going to show us 14 days worth. The amend button over here to the right will allow me to fix anything if I answered a question incorrectly, or in this case, if I missed signing off on an order. So I'm going to click on amend. And if I look, this order's been in here quite a while. So if we see all these days that were missed, all right, so here's the difference. Right here, it shows me that this order was given, and it would have my nurse's name right here. So in a real setting, you would see a lot of this rather than the missed. On my order, the missed was today at 9 a.m. So I would come over here to the right hand side. I would find the one that would make sure it was the correct time. Come over here to the right and I would click amend. When I do that, it's asking me for an amend reason. Now notice amend reason is bold and amend note is not. We only need to really focus on the bold questions. So amend reason, I click my down arrow. I have chart correction, missing or late charting, or other. So missing or late charting. And just like the order itself in eMAR, I have prepped or not administered. Right now, it's telling me that it's missed. So I would need to prep this medication. It wants to know the reason. So I'm just going to say that I charted it late. And again, what we talked about earlier, if this was 9 a.m., let's say I gave it at 9:45. My comment is going to be the time that I gave that medication. I'll click save. And now if you look, this top one has been filled in with the information that I just put into the computer. So it is no longer missed. So that is how we are going to amend an order in eMAR. The second thing that I want to show you is during the process of signing off orders in eMAR, it's very common that you're going to find orders that were entered incorrectly, that were put on the wrong flow sheet, that are missing parts of the order that we need, and you're going to see this from time to time. The cool thing about eMAR is that we can jump straight from eMAR to physician orders just by clicking on one of these orders. So we can fix something if we see that it is wrong. In this instance, I'm looking at my medication work list. And in my medication work list, I see an order for document in ml all fluids taken with meds. So number one, red flag, this order should not be showing up in my medication work list. It's a shift-based order, and this order belongs on the documentation flow sheet, which should trigger in the documentation work list. So that's the first thing that I see that's wrong with this order. The second thing that I see is wrong is if I'm coming to sign it off, the only options I have are prep or not administered. All right, so if I click prep and confirm it and save it, all it's going to do is put my signature on it. What it's not going to allow me to do is put in the mLs that the resident received. So I now see two things wrong with this order, and I'm going to fix both of them. To do that, all I'm going to do is click on the order itself. When I do that, it brings me to physician orders. So here's my order. I can scroll to the bottom. You should be used to this by now. Back, report, copy order, DC, edit. I'm going to edit this order. So the first thing was I need a place to put my mLs. So if I'm looking down here in my med notes, I notice that mLs is not checked. So I'm going to check my ml box. And the second thing was my flow sheet. I can see that it is on dietary. Pretty common mistake. Document mLs belongs on the documentation flow sheet. I'm going to change my flow sheet. I'll say next. Scroll down to the bottom. Those changes have been saved. I will click back. Now it takes me right back to my medication work list, and if you notice, the document ML order is gone. Awesome. That's exactly what we want it to happen. Now let's go make sure that we did it correctly. I'm going to come down here to my back button, which in this case is select resident. I'm still in my medication work list. I want to look at documentation, so I'm going to click on select work list. Just look at my East unit. I'll go under my documentation. There's Santa. There's my side effects that are now ready to be signed off on again because it's a new shift. And there's my document ML order. So it was transferred to the correct work list. It's on the right flow sheet. And notice now it has the task where if I clicked on it, I could put in my MLs. So a pretty quick way to fix or adjust any orders that you see that may be incorrect. Another shortcut for you, if you're interested, we have an All Tasks button here at the top. What this will allow me to do if I click All Tasks is any order that I have that requires a task, it will let me answer them all in one swoop. Pretty cool. So I'm going to click on All Tasks. And here we go. It wants to know my mLs with my med pass, so I'll put in 120. This next one is wanting to know, did I give the extra 120? I did. Were my routine pain meds effective? So I could say yes. And at the same time, I could come down here and I could add new all of my vital signs for my order that's requiring vital signs. By doing that, notice it check marks all of my tasks, and then I could just click on my prep button. The other thing, we're focusing on Santa Claus. So if I were to answer all of Santa's documentation, this work list right here in this top left corner is a little drop down. If I click my arrow, it will show me where else Santa has orders that are due. So currently we're in the documentation work list. I could jump straight over to the treatment work list if I wanted to, just by clicking there. Now I'm still on Santa, but I'm looking at the orders that are on the treatment work list.